Welcome back to the channel, Sunshines. This week I have another exciting tutorial for you guys showing how I made my Halloween costume this year. It's a 4-part mini series, and in this video I will be showing you how I made my peak backpack. I'll make sure to include all the materials in the description box if you'd like to recreate this backpack like I did. So to start off, here's the backpack that I found. I think it actually looks pretty close to the one in the game. It has the handle at the top as well as a fun little pocket to hide things in, and the bag itself is pretty spacious inside. Perfect for putting our peak accessories into. On the front, we have another big pocket which matches perfectly because we will need to alter this part to match the backpack to the game, and it has pretty thick straps in the back, so it seems to be made pretty well. First up, we're going to start with the easiest parts. If you look at the original, you'll see it has a small goldish yellow piece that wraps around the strings. So I actually cut a small piece off of the fabric I will be using for the blanket that's being attached on the bottom. I couldn't find any gold yellow felt, so I'm just using these little scraps from that blanket. I just used some hot glue to glue the piece all around, and I think it worked pretty well. I just made sure the seam was in the back so that it was nicely covered. Next up is the handle of the backpack. Again, I used that same gold yellow fabric and cut a piece off for my handle. You'll see on one side, it's more of a blanket-like texture, so I just flipped it because the other side looked a little more like felt. To attach it, I just started at the very middle, and this material was a little stretchier than felt, so it had a little bit of give to it, which was nice. I used some hot glue and worked on attaching the top of the handle first, kind of using that same technique I did when I made the first aid kit in my previous video. I glued down the top of the handle, grabbed one side and folded it in, and then grabbed the other side and folded it in so that they both meet in the middle. Just make sure to add the glue on the edges so that it lays down nicely and doesn't fold back up. And there it is. I love how it's coming out so far. But now to the more difficult parts of the backpack. So for this part, I had to sketch out what looks like an angry face for the details on the pocket. I only had black felt, so I just went with that. Now for the rest of it, I went with red felt because I've been using it a lot throughout this project, so I only needed the one sheet for everything, which was perfect. I had to stuff the pocket with something because I needed it to be more firm so I can wrap it and get the shape right. To start, I'm just going to start gluing the top of the pocket so it doesn't move around, and I'm just going to use hot glue for this part as well. You'll have to work a little fast on this section because it is a large space and you don't want the glue to cool down before you place the fabric, but you can work in small areas little by little as well to help with that. Once you have the top glued down, you're gonna fold the end piece into the flap, being careful not to cover the zipper. So you may need to trim it a little bit for it to nicely fold in because you want to still have access to the zipper underneath. There is a good amount of overhang to attach the felt onto it, thankfully, but the trickiest part is the ends of the pocket. You'll just need to fold it down so that it lays nicely on the pocket. You could do this in a couple of different ways, but I just played around with it until I got the shape that I liked and I glued it down. You may need to trim it a bit again because this section will be a little thicker because you're folding the felt together, so just trim off any excess if you need to make it work. After you figure out the first end, the other side you'll just do the same thing, so it should be smooth sailing after that. Unless you're like me and can't do the same thing twice in a row, then you'll be here for a hot minute, but we made it work. And there you have it. You may need to stretch it out a bit so that it keeps the shape, but there's nothing in the pocket, so I love that the felt kind of holds its shape a little easier now. I'm just going to cut out my template for the details. Since it is darker color felt, I can't really trace on it, so I'm just going to place my template and cut around it. Since it's simple shapes, it is pretty easy to cut. Again, I'm going in with my special sharp scissors to cut the felt to get a nice crisp edge. I love these scissors so much that I bought 2 of them in case I lost my other one. The only problem I would say is the holes where you put your fingers are on the smaller side, so if you have bigger hands, it may get a little difficult to hold. I'm just going to place everything on the pocket so I can get the placement down, and then glue little pieces of it at first to make sure it stays in place. and doesn't move as I glue everything down. Make sure to get the edges so that nothing comes back up. And bam, another section done. I think it came out pretty well. Now, the last part of this backpack almost sent me to a rage room. Have y'all ever seen the rooms you can rent out where you can destroy everything in it? That's where this part almost took me. I couldn't decide if I wanted to make the straps on the side removable or not, so I had a tough time figuring out how to do it. I had some leftover Velcro circles from my previous projects, so I thought that would be a good way to attach it to the backpack. Before we get to that, we needed to cut out our straps. I just made it based on how thick I wanted the straps to be on my backpack. You'll see it was about 4 by 11 because I wanted to be able to fold the ends in so that the strap could have some thickness to it. And this is where I first messed up. I decided to switch it up and use E6000 glue, and I underestimated the fumes that were coming out of this bad boy. It almost took me to the heavens that night, and I didn't even have it out longer than a minute. I'm so used to my no spill glue that I didn't realize this glue was still seeping out of the bottle when I put it down, so off camera it spilled all over my desk. Luckily, I was quick to clean it up before it dried, so everything was fine except the smell, and it all took probably a few days to go away. I was smelling this in my dreams, y'all, and it was so bad, but you know, it's more user error than anything. That was on me. Learn from my mistakes. After my mishap, I realized I forgot to cut out my second strap, so I went ahead and did that, and then went straight back to my good old trusty friend Mr. Hot Glue. One of my first jobs included a lot of hot gluing, so me and hot glue were locked in for life. That's my ride or die buddy right there. So like I said earlier, you'll just fold both sides of the felt to the middle and do this again for the other strap. Now for one of my straps, I will be using it to hold my sports drink prop, so this was a bit tricky, trying to figure out how to add the strap tight enough to hold the bottle in place. I'm going to skip over a few parts because you'll see that I thought I needed to add more length to the straps, and I was so wrong because I needed it to actually be snug against the bottle, so that was my next problem. I was a little frazzled, so I didn't think this part through, but I just went ahead and added my Velcro circles without thinking about the distance. The distance will affect how snug your items will sit in those straps, and I definitely did not think that through, so again, learn from my mistakes. Also, meet my other bestie, Mr. Loctite. We love him, super strong. A little goes a long way, so you can't use too much at a time because you will run out. These little bottles don't hold too much in it, but the control you have and the strength of it is just too good. You might not be able to tell here, but I already stuck both pieces of the Velcro circles together, so I could easily glue them down without having to line them up. I'm thinking of just using this side for my rope spool since it came out too large to hold my sports drink, so I may need to find a way to get this to hold or buy a few more rope spools to fill it out better. After learning my lesson from the first strap, I made sure to bring the Velcro circles close together so I had a more secure hold. You'll see here I'm putting the strap around the bottle to measure it, which I should have done originally, but that's alright. Once I'm good with the distance, I just glued the Velcro circles again with the Loctite, and I'm just gonna let that chill for a bit without touching it so it can fully cure. While that does its thing, the final section is the bottom of the backpack. I needed to make a strap to hold the yellow sleeping bag or blanket. I'm unsure what it is, but I found this perfect color at the store. So for the strap, I literally did the same method I used to make the red straps that go on the side of the backpack. I measured it out long enough so that it can hold that blanket in place. Then I just brought both sides to the middle to make the strap a little thicker. You'll see here that I used some string I had to tie the blanket because I had to roll it up, and this helped it stay in place. I was so excited to find this fabric because I think I only paid like $5 or $6 for a yard, which I thought was a pretty good deal. So now I'm just adding the strap to the bottom of the backpack. I glued the first part of the strap to the end of the front pocket using the Loctite glue since it's holding an actual item. Once that was secure, I put the blanket underneath to gauge where to put it, and stuck 2 more Velcro stickers at the other end of the strap so that I could make it removable when I add or take off the blanket. Again, I'm going to leave it alone after gluing so it has time to cure, and that's about it. I think it came out so good and it looks exactly like the backpack from the game. Stay tuned for our next tutorial, which is the 3rd part in our 4-part series. I will be making the sash for our Peak Scout costume. Also, like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Love you guys, bye!